It's Wednesday. Let's chat. Hi, I'm Kanan Chandran, the publisher of StormAsia.com, and this is our regular series of Wednesday web chats, where we bring a whole variety of discussions to you, a range of topics. And today's session is on marketing. That's a curious word. It's not about going to the market and buying stuff, but it's encouraging you to go into the marketplace to get stuff. It's one of those strange things that has evolved over the years, grown considerably, and the original intent was to get messages to you so that you would be intrigued enough to go and buy something, pick up something. Remember when you're looking through your social media feeds, you're trying to look at what your friends are up to, and then you'll get these little messages popping up, and they seem to almost read your mind, right? Like, what have you been looking at that comes up as something to sell to you? So marketing has become very insidious. It's grown. It's evolved. It sort of gobbles up things that are that they can take to their advantage and make full use of it to spread the information to you. So there's so many new avenues that are coming up, and marketing is a nebulous creature that defies definition almost, and it continues to grow. Now, how do you get your messages out into a world that is constantly changing? It's evolving so rapidly. New platforms are coming up, and then you've got so many segments of society. You've got the millennials, you've got the Gen Zs, you've got boomers, and you want to try and reach out to your specific audience. How do you craft your message in that case? So today we have experts from 3 industries that are quite different to each other. And I thought this differences would make for a much more interesting discussion, because we will get perspectives which would otherwise not be, party to. So we've got Audrey Perera, who is the executive producer of True Colours Festival, The Concert 2022. Now, Audrey is a Singapore-based arts festival producer and director who began her career in the arts after more than a decade as an award-winning reporter, magazine editor, and author. And she is, as I said, one of the executive producers of the True Colours Festival, which takes place in Tokyo on the 19th and 20th of November. Lucie Pugnot, who is a regional marketing manager of McLaren Automotive Ltd. Lucie has more than a decade of experience in brand management with global luxury companies like LVMH and Richemont. For McLaren Automotive, she is supervising marketing and PR in the APAC, which is a total of 11 markets and 20 retailers across the region. Julian So, the group CEO of XBE, which is Extreme Business Enterprises. Julian studied law and practiced banking law in Singapore and Hong Kong. He has 15 years of experience in the finance industry with UBS AG, Morgan Stanley, and was head of Asia Fixed Income at Mizuho Securities. He's the group CEO of XBE, which is a group of companies that covers the metaverse, blockchain, and NFT technology applications. And it's also organizing a global Web 5.0 conference, which takes place on the 1st of November in Singapore. Welcome, Julian. Welcome everybody to this discussion. It's a great mix of personalities and industries we have today. And I just wanted to start off with a question for all of you to answer. Maybe let's start off with you, Lucie. What's been your biggest marketing challenge? And in that, you can also talk a bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, I think that's a good question. Top of my mind will be definitely Singapore Grand Prix that we had recently. I think all of you have been somehow part of this massive event after 2 years of COVID. I think it was very very much expected in Singapore. So definitely a big challenge because of so much expectation from our clients, from the press, but also a very new way to approach things after COVID. Definitely, social media was a big part of that, and how we recreate, I would say, the experience after COVID. It was very much, I would say, different, definitely more on trying to create something very experiential. And I think it's bring me to your next question, which is basically who I am. So as you was mentioning, I work for more than a decade in Asia for luxury, and I think very, very close to my heart is really about experiential marketing. And how we create, I would say, experience that resonates with the brand, but also with the different audience. So I think, just to reply on Singapore Grand Prix, I think was amazing experience for our existing clients. So we create something very bespoke for our top client, but we also had, I'm not sure if you have here, exhibition of 21 car, which was one of its kind collection gathered in Singapore, and it was the first of its kind actually in Asia.
The biggest marketing challenge is how segmented the market now is. It's almost down to individuals that you need to speak to, right? And that's related to a second challenge we have. We don't have a product to sell. We're trying to, okay, I'll take a step back and explain a little bit about the festival.
Yes, please. Yeah.
When it started, it was really about turning the spotlight onto artists with disabilities, in an effort to make people see beyond the body shape or the missing limb or so on. Over the years, we've evolved. So now the concert this year is about diversity. So it is no longer about showcasing artists with disabilities. It's about showcasing a very diverse set of artists. Some have disabilities, some have invisible disabilities, and some don't. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to raise consciousness, because we all over the world, we're working on diversity and inclusion. We're trying to break these barriers between mainstream communities or majority communities and different kinds of minorities, right? But you can't do that if every one of us doesn't change our own mindsets. If we still see people as different or not able or not as smart, not as good, the overall narrative won't really shift much except in form, So we don't have a product to sell. We're trying to raise consciousness. And that's really difficult.
Yeah. I suppose it's the factor that it's with disabilities, people don't view you and your performance as top quality. Is that it? Do they always feel that they're getting something not as good as the mainstream mega pop star doing their thing?
Yes, that is always the assumption. You're less than or you're a charity or fundraising event.
Okay.
And that's a very deep perception, couple of perceptions that we're trying to break through with the work that we do.
Okay, so it'll be good to hear how you're going about with that and what steps you've made with that. Let's just quickly get Julian's take on his biggest challenge and what he does. Julian, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Kanan. And thank you very much for that kind introduction earlier. It's interesting to hear Audrey talk about not having a product to sell. I think we're kind of similar in some ways, not in all ways. Look, we're actually a technology group that holds a lot of technology capabilities, right? So these include, obviously, we have an auto-stereoscopic 3D capabilities. We have the Web3 capabilities, which include blockchain and NFTs, and we're also very strong on AI. However, I think it was Bill Gates that said that good technology is technology that people do not constantly think about, right? They don't actually see it existing. But the problem is, I think, especially in our industry, is that we spend a lot of time trying to educate people on the technologies that we have, and how these technologies are intended to change or improve other people's lives, right? And if you don't focus on them, if you don't talk about them, and it's supposed to disappear into the background, then it becomes very difficult for us to try and tell people what exactly we're trying to offer to them, right? So I think that has always been our greatest difficulty, trying to explain very, very complex concepts, especially when it comes to the Web3, has always been one of our biggest challenges. And it actually didn't help with the fact that the entire market is hyping this space up so much that people forget about thinking about how technology is supposed to improve our lives. And instead, they were only interested in speculating and trying to find ways to make a quick buck out of the industry. And that has always been our greatest challenge, which is to try and steer everybody back to the baseline where we talk about how technology is supposed to improve our lives. So this recent crypto winter has, in a way, been a blessing in disguise for us. All of that hype has actually gone down. In fact, I think if you look at recent news about the OpenSea trading volume has dropped something like 99%. So that tells you, how much hype there was before. And because people are no longer focusing on a hype, they're now focusing on, how can this technology be used to improve the way we work, to increase efficiency, to promote productivity. And I think right now is probably the best time for us to try and show that and try to demonstrate that to the public. I think that was my answer to your question, Kanan.
Okay, great, thanks. Do you want to just explain what the crypto winter means? I mean, somebody might think is from Game of Thrones. For those who are not in the know in the audience and who'll be watching this later, if you'd just like to explain very quickly what the crypto winter is and what OpenSea is all about.
Oh, sure. Okay. Apologies. I made a lot of assumptions there. Well, first of all, I think, look, winter is, is usually used to describe, circumstances where things get frozen up, right? So I think, I know you mentioned Game of Thrones, but that was an actual real winter where, someone was going to a battle. But essentially, when we talk about, for example, a winter in the stock market, or we talk about winter in the crypto market, what we really meant is that trading volumes dropped into a very drastically. So I think right now is where we are. When I say crypto winter, like I explained earlier, is how trading volumes have fallen by 99%. If you look at recent statistics on cryptocurrencies, there are currently 12,000 cryptocurrencies that were previously issued. They are now basically zombified in a sense that no one is trading them anymore. So that's what I meant by winter, which is that very few people are actually looking at them or trading them anymore because everyone has actually pretty much lost interest. OpenSea happens to be the single largest platform for trading NFTs in the world. At one point, you'll be surprised to hear, at one point in time during earlier this year, in just 1 month, they had something like the peak of $3.5 billion of NFTs traded in 1 month. So you can imagine what kind of volume that is, right? 3.5 billion. But having said that, obviously right now, like I mentioned earlier, those volumes has fallen by 99%. So we're down to a fraction of what it was before, and I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yours is a relatively new industry. And you're building your ecosystem, and already you see such dramatic peaks and troughs. How can marketing help the whole process so that it gets to a more, or maybe you don't want it, but a more stable level of transactions?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I think one of the concerns we have always had is that the crypto industries, cryptocurrencies in the crypto industry have always been very highly hyped by everyone. And that's not something that we really want to see going forward because it's not long-term and it's not sustainable. And if you look at regulators around the world, they're all very, very concerned about all of this hype because at the end of the day, you need to know what you're buying and you need to know what you're selling. And obviously, if you look at recent news, Gary Gensler, who is the US SEC chair, has been taking a lot of actions He even took an action against one of the celebrities in the US for previously promoting a token, right? So this is the extent in which regulators are actually trying to protect, the men on the street, and we don't want that. What we really want is we want to see people using this technology to improve our day-to-day lives, right? So if, let's say, for example, in our case, what we've done is we've used this technology to try and change the way the arts and collectibles industry is supposed to work. And I think it's going to be a huge disruption to the industry. We are also looking to use that technology to change the way the media and entertainment industry works, because media and entertainment industry is mostly about intellectual property. And you'll be surprised how much the blockchain and the Web3 technologies can help these two industries. And that's something that we're really focused on at the moment.
Okay, the media industry is going through some serious change. A lot of changes have been taking place. Lucie, your brand established, McLaren is a very established brand. Your business is a bit younger, a lot younger, just 11 years old now, right, in terms of the streetcars. But still, you've also had experience with luxury goods with the other companies that you've worked with. What's the view in terms of presenting a marketing strategy that is then adopted? Is it to go and reach as many people as possible, narrow the focus down tremendously? What is it? What is the end game there for you?
I think, as you say, luxury industry is very, I would say, very niche markets. So basically, I think we are 60 years into automotive. The brand of McLaren is done for 60 years, but we are somehow so very, very young, just 11 years in automotive. And I would say it's a very, very different in between automotive and racing, which is the other, I would say, branch of McLaren, is a very different audience we are reaching to. For automotive is definitely ultra net worth individuals based on the price point of the car. And for that, we are really, I would say, creating more and more strategy which are very dedicated and targeted to each of our audiences. So, and often I would say it's very much related to client profile, passion, rather than just age bracket, or of course is play a big role when you think about the new generation, the Gen Z and the millennials are actually for luxury in Asia by I think 2025 will represent 60% of the clients. So it's definitely a massive interest to reach to this bracket of age. But I think more than that, I think McLaren is really about experience. So it's how you experience the brand. So I give you a concrete example. So for instance, we have people who are very into racing. So they want to have a McLaren automotive to really be on the track and really do go for hot laps and really push the limit of the car. While you have other persons that really love the aesthetic, our design is very distinctive compared to other competitor brands. So it's a very even sometimes it could be even the same products, but our strategy will be definitely more client centric based on what is the interest, what is I would say make our brand vibrant for the different audience.
Okay, so in the past, you probably reached out through mainstream media to reach people, right? Luxury magazines, maybe the select newspapers. That's all changing now. I think mainstream media has taken a massive knock. Is becoming a lot more irrelevant to many things because of the rise of social media and other platforms of direct communication. I mean, even Netflix is going to start ad-supported subscriptions. And because of that, their subscriptions, which were down in the last quarter, has jumped up this quarter. So would you look at these new avenues more than the traditional avenues for presenting your marketing positions?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like, especially as I was mentioning, I think the new generation take more and more, I would say, importance in who are our audiences. So it's interesting. We have Julian actually on the call, because I think NFT metaverse is definitely something that I think a lot of luxury brand already put a foot into, and I think we have already launched our NFT a few months back, our very first McLaren NFT. And I think we are seeing a real, I would say, interest, and we are able to really connect with like these new audiences. So definitely something that's moving forward, we will probably see more and more for McLaren, but also I think for luxury, all the luxury brands.
Okay. Audrey, I mean, all this talk of NFT and all these new things, is that something that might help an event like True Colors, creating NFTs that might reach out to this group of people and create awareness?
I have to confess that I don't fully understand it, NFTs, metaverse. So that's obviously it's a big hindrance to considering it. But I think the larger point is that I feel we're on a turnstile, I mean, this is just getting more and more and more and more options, more and more platforms. And yeah, to me, it's very troubling because we don't, as an arts event, we can't throw money at things. We can't, we have to be so prudent about how we spend the money. So part of our strategy, albeit a traditional strategy, is yes, we talk to different audiences on social media. We rely on that a lot. We customize our content, although we keep the core intact. But we also have to work on outreach. For example, I mean, I'll share something which is going to be announced in a couple of days. The concert will be live streamed. We're announcing it on Friday. But how do we get the word out about live stream without spending money, marketing money, which we don't have a lot of? So we're reaching out to many organizations, corporates, schools, basically saying, look, people, we're all in this together. We're all trying to change society to be more diverse and inclusive. And we all need to support each other. It can't be transactional. If I'm doing an event that's aligned with your cause, please help me spread the word, and I will do the same for you. We will do the same with you. And I think we have to change that mindset, at least in this space, to be non-competitive, but complementary, and sort of like all of us in this together, because we all want the same thing. And it seems to be working, because when corporates that we reach out to hear that it's a free live stream, the concert is a not-for-profit event, our message is one world, one family, it's about celebrating diversity, that we have nothing to gain from it financially, from more people watching the live stream, they're very responsive, because we're being honest and they get it, So we are not even looking at NFTs and sort of at that level of marketing. Yeah.
But do you think, Julian, you could see a potential in what Audrey is doing and create something in your metaverse and your NFTs and stuff like that?
Yeah, Kana, I'm glad you asked this question, because I was going to offer Audrey all our help. We actually do a lot of CSR for a lot of different charities or CSR activities. And we'll be very, very happy to help you out, whether it's with the use of NFTs or with the use of our metaverse, to try and help you spread that word. I think please do reach out to me. I'll make sure I'll get my marketing team on this and to help you as much as we can. I will be very, very happy to do that for sure. And actually, to be honest, interestingly, in the crypto industry, we see people and we see our different participants exactly like the way you say it. We don't see them as opponents, or we don't see them as competitors. I think in any industry, as you correctly mentioned, I think it's very, very important for people to pull together, because if you want to lead the narrative and you want to contribute back to society, I think the only way is to get everybody on board and do it as a team rather than constantly in competition.
Thank you,
Yes.
Julian. Very
my pleasure.
appreciated. You will hear from me before you can even blink
No worries.
Well, Lucie, for you, is this a space that you're looking at as well? I mean, in terms of how much is the emphasis that you're placing on? I mean, you've got a very real product, a car on the streets, a lot of noise. Of course, when it becomes electric, it might be less noise, but still, it's physical, it's there. How important is the NFT space and the metaverse and everything else to your brand and to where it's going?
So I think, yeah, I mean, like, just to maybe rephrase a little bit, I think, like, you was, I think now we are more than just a luxury good company. I think it's really about, luxury experience. So I would say in that way, NFT, metaverse can be like, part of that. I think is probably a part of the future of like where I mean, in terms of space for our brand. I think we're at the very, very beginning of the journey, to be honest with you. I think we are still very much like, observing on like what is that, because again, I think like, is really a space to create a new brand platform for us. So we need to be quite authentic in the way we do, in the way we approach metaverse and NFTs, not like, just, okay, let's put a bit of content and here we are. I think we need to provide something like, a real experience and added values that you might not have in the real world. So I think it's like, at this stage, we are, I think, trying to see what could be this added value and what is the experience you could get on this metaverse world, rather than like in the real life. So I would say just the beginning of the journey for us, but yeah, I think quite exciting to explore a new way to connect with audiences.
Okay, so Audrey, you're not into this space. Lucie, you're just dipping your toe into it. Julian, you're trying to build it. I would see the biggest challenge in this is, as Audrey rightly pointed out earlier, the constant change, the new things that keep popping up, and some that die off. Is that in the back of your minds that, if I get into this, then I might be in a situation where in 2-3 years it doesn't exist. Then what do I do? Have I wasted my marketing dollars getting into this space? Is there that sense of caution that sort of clouds any marketing decisions that you might make?
Yeah, I think when Audrey was mentioning that, I think definitely I feel like, we have so many options in terms of channel, in terms of how we message it, who maybe influencer we work with, or like, it's so many options that sometimes I feel like we have to just make priority in terms of like, and also based on like, what's the budget we have, but also what is our priority in terms of like, marketing objective. So it's often like really a question of like how this is going to work together. I think also we see more and more complexity in terms of like, being more, I would say, client-centric rather than product-centric, which is definitely create a journey, a path for clients. So, probably, as you say, like I mean, some of these options won't exist in the next coming years. So I think like, our role is really still to be very consistent for our brand in terms of like, what is the message we deliver. After how we deliver could be where like, is a little bit more of like, flexibility, and it's still very much linked to the priorities we have.
Julian, in creating this whole business that you've got and in these various areas that you're getting into, are you sort of cognizant of the fact that some may not exist down the line, or are you building with a view that, this is being built for a very long run?
Oh, look, I think we started this as early as March last year. I don't know, that was when NFT became a craze because people sold his artwork, the 5,000 Days, for $69 million US. I think it was auctioned by Christie's, right? I think that was what got everybody into NFTs in the first place. We became very interested because we were kind of surprised by the demand for this particular artwork. And what we did was we did a very deep investigation as to what exactly is this NFT. And I think at the end of the day, what we found out was that the NFT technology is actually nothing more than a digital document, right? So it's kind of like PDF or Word document. So we don't see this as going away, right? It is really just really just a digital document with the blockchain characteristics and the blockchain benefits, and we can talk about that later because that's also quite a complicated discussion. But let's just assume that's what it is, right? And if that was what it is, I mean, today we've been using the Word document and PDF document for the longest time, right? And what's important is this: the moment you understand that that is all that technology is, and it's not whatever that's being hyped right now today. And the reason why a lot of NFTs today will slowly disappear and die is because no one has really looked at the fact that this technology is really just a digital document, right? And if you look at it from that perspective, then you immediately realize that, oh, we can use this document to document many, many things in our lives, right? And that's why it's never going to go away. So, for example, we have a title deed for real estate, right? We have a car registration certificate for a car. But what you're going to realize is that a lot of arts and collectibles do not have a ownership certificate, right? Because no one maintains that registry to ensure that we always constantly be able to tell who the real owner is. And that is a real problem in the art and collectibles industry, because when you buy a painting, you're not sure whether the seller is selling you an art which he owns, or whether he's selling it to you, an art piece that he stole, right? And then there's also a lot of provenance issues. Now, we are using NFT technology to solve all of those problems. And how we do it is that we create legally binding documentation that goes into the NFT that then represents ownership of that art piece. So the moment you realize, oh, that is what NFT is about, then you're not going to worry about whether it's going to be around in the next decade or in the next century, because it's definitely going to be around because it has a purpose. And that's how we see technology.
So it's essentially new ways of doing old things, is it?
Yes, it has always been the case. And then the next question will be, so why do we need to find this new way to do old things, right? So what is it about the blockchain characteristics that are so important that this actually supersedes, for example, the Word document or PDF file? Well, the reason is because number one, it's supposed to be relatively immutable. Number two, it's supposed to be in a decentralized register. Number three is because it's fully transparent, so everyone can see who is the current owner and who were the previous owner. So all of these characteristics make this particular digital document more important, and why it can disrupt the existing way of doing things. And that's what we're all about.
So it's you can't manipulate it, and you don't have government intervention. Those are your key strong points.
Well, again, it's subjective. Like, for example, there are a lot of governments out there that want to create what we call private blockchain, right? So the moment you go into a private blockchain, then obviously the government is able to control everything that happens in that blockchain. But I think if you look at the way the crypto community is pushing this, that they want a fully public blockchain where, like you said, the government cannot control it, and that's something that people tend to have more confidence in.
I just wanted to try and get a sense of what do you see the road ahead for marketing opportunities in your respective areas. Maybe Audrey, where do you see the best sort of marketing avenues for you?
I think, given what I see now, it lies in social media. I don't understand, like I said before, I don't understand the crypto space. So maybe, yes, now I have a clearer idea from Julian, thank you. But from where I'm sitting, it seems to be social media. And in time to come, we'll have to get our message out in 1 second, right?
But social media is also a strange animal, right? Because there's an algorithm that controls what you see. So yes. How do you then get yours noticed?
Yeah, so for that, that was a very unhappy realization for me when I first learned about it, that just because we put out a fabulous post or a series of posts or a campaign, it doesn't mean that all our followers will see it, because the algorithm decides. So that's where we rely on the advice and the expertise of a social media agency, simply because we, as arts producers, we just don't have the know-how or the understanding of the back end about categorizing the content so that it reaches the right people. So it's still quite a mystery to me. I mean, we've learned what works, what gives us better traction. If I can give you a couple of examples. Sure. We have an artist that we work with often. He's Japanese. His name is Daiki, and he's a dancer. He has dwarfism. And one of the ways that we've always chosen to tell our stories is it's not the hard luck or the pity me narrative. It's the story of the human being living their life. Because people who have differences don't spend their lives talking about their differences. They get on with life. So we did this little animated, we created an animated clip with Daiki, like a day in the life of Daiki. And it was eye-opening, and we got a lot of feedback because people never realized that somebody with dwarfism in a crowded Tokyo subway train, what is his experience? He's pressed against unwanted body parts of taller customers. His head gets knocked by haversacks and handbags without anybody even realizing, So it wasn't a pity me. It was like, hey, you know what? This is what I deal with every day. And we got a lot of traction. We have another Japanese aerial dancer and wheelchair dancer. And when we showcased him as a dad, we got a lot of responses because people kind of assume that somebody with that disability would not be married and living a normal life. So the response was very warm. It's like, oh my goodness, Kenta has 2 children. Look, he's bouncing them on his on the way he has managed to bounce his child, given that he can't use his legs, So we find that when we hit that note of sort of shared humanity, the story goes very well. People respond to it because I'm not telling you about the disability. I'm showing you that this is a person with a life, just like yours and mine.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's about that human touch, isn't it? And being able to communicate that becomes quite important. But Julian, in your space, is there much of that human touch that you can do, or is it all just networks and everything else? Because one of the things that I find, Audrey, you mentioned in the algorithm and social media agencies, it is very difficult to be an expert in it because the Facebooks and the Googles of the world are continuously changing the algorithm to keep ahead of anybody who's trying to chase them. They will never want those secrets let out, right? So no matter what they tell larger organizations, they will still manipulate it and they will still control it. So you don't really have control over that either, right? But Julian, do you see that as a potential problem in terms of trying to market what you are offering to your groups of followers?
Yeah, look, Kanan, I think this is a very, very, very good question. I think earlier you brought up the fact that people do crypto or they do blockchain because they don't want government control. But the truth is also true about having corporate control, right? You're absolutely right. I think today one of the reasons why the crypto industry is so vibrant is precisely because they're also trying to to push back against a lot of these corporate controls on the social media and preventing people who are trying to naturally get the audience that they're looking for, right? And actually the fact is that and I really hope that I can help Audrey when she reaches out to me after this call, is that one of the great things about the blockchain industry is this, right? So when you have actually previously already sold an NFT to a particular customer, and it may not be a sale, right? I mean, Audrey, you might think that we don't want to sell stuff, but actually, to be honest, it's not such a bad thing because I think to get some revenues in so that we can then use those revenues to spend on more marketing to try and bring more people into your community is as important as trying to save money and not spend unnecessarily. I think those are both equally important. But the great thing about NFTs is this, because the whole entire platform is so transparent, we will continue to always know who is holding on to those NFTs. right? Because the wallets holding those NFTs are transparent to all of us, which means that from your perspective, Audrey, the moment we roll out these NFTs and we know who are the people that are concerned enough about your business or your industry, that are willing to go out and buy these NFTs, you will always know, you won't know the exact identity. All you will have is their wallet address, but we will then be able to constantly feed information into their wallet addresses, right? So like what you just mentioned, even if the social media prevents your, for example, your video or for one of your content from reaching out to these people, we are not concerned anymore because you already kind of know who they are. Right, and the next time you create another video, because it's a media content, we turn it into an NFT and we can push it into their wallets, and then they will receive it directly, and you never have to depend on any algorithm. So I think that there are a lot of these solutions that are being offered by the blockchain. A lot of people don't understand it because of the hype. They keep thinking that it's really just about, you know, people trying to make a quick buck, but it's not. The moment we realize what technology we're using, we can actually apply it to a lot of very good causes, and also to apply it to a lot of existing practices in order to enhance them. And I think that's what we're really trying to do, at least from my perspective and from our group's perspective.
So you're pushing for more closed networks, so that you're not controlled by another party, right? So the NFTs would be a closed network, a closed loop of contacts, which you, of course, will continue to build on.
Yeah. So rather than a closed network, I think I like to call it community. I think that's what the crypto industry likes to talk about them, right? So it's the same. It's the same reason why, for example, Apple is able to sell so many iPhones, right? They started off with a very small, die-hard community that will swear by Apple products, right? I think we all know Apple, when they first started, was actually struggling in terms with their financials. But because they came up with a really, really good product, and because they were able to grow that core group of community, eventually they can grow to the size that they are today. And that's what the blockchain allows ordinary people to do. So you don't have to have, you know, a huge wallet to be able to create and build this community. It's just that if you're a smaller wallet, it just takes a longer period of time. You have a bigger wallet, you can do it more quickly. But that is what the blockchain is all about.
You talk about the Apple example, but Apple's also in a way a closed community because you have to use their OS in order to get the most out of it, right?
Yes.
So in a way they control you and they hook you in and they keep you because their OS does such a good job, right? But Lucie, in your case, you've got a much smaller niche that you work with. You've got limited number of cars to start off with, right? So how important is it to reach a larger group like that? Would the community that Julian is talking about be relevant to you, or do you go for something more exclusive?
No, I think it's like still about community. I think especially for McLaren is like a very hardcore of McLaren lovers for automotive. I mean, you have racing, of course, we have this massive fan of McLaren, but I think for automotive, we have this really hardcore, I would say, of geek almost part of our community. So I think definitely when you was asking about which channel, definitely using, I mean, working with this community of like, you know, brand advocates is probably definitely something that is the best, I feel like, avenue in terms of like experience and networking. Often I would say the best way to increase our audience is definitely by referrals. Like, you know, when you have like someone who's own McLaren or interested in McLaren and like, you know, sharing his passion or interest for our brands. And like, you know, when you experience a McLaren car, usually is like, you know, make all the magic. So yeah, I think that's probably the strongest experience, and I would say community is probably the strongest tools for our brand. And I think like, you know, looking at the future, it will be not only offline, but also more and more online. So I think that's where the interest for metaverse come from.
So one of the challenges that I see for a brand like McLaren is, now McLaren is known for its cars, the engine, the noise, the experience. As the world pushes towards electric vehicles, where's the noise going to come from? Where is that, the vibrations? Where are you going to feel those vibrations in the car? Everything is still quiet, fast, no doubt, but you lose a lot of the feeling,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So it's interesting you're asking this question because we are actually launching our new car, which is a hybrid car, our very first supercar hybrid. We had previously other hybrid, like Speedtail was a hybrid car, but really ultimate series, so very a small number. But Artura is I would say our very first hybrid supercar. So very interesting question, because I would say especially what is interesting about Artura is actually you have 4 different modes. So you can drive very silently, but if you want to go a little bit more aggressive and you're on track, you can move to a track mode. So somehow I would say the experience behind that is not only, is basically to give the opportunity for our client to have the choice. And I think that's something very interesting, especially for the new generation. I think people want to have something bespoke, something personalized, and have the choice to drive how they want. So either silent when you come back home and you don't want to disturb anybody, but also going on a track in a very aggressive way for outlap.
Okay, cool. So one last question before we wrap up this very interesting session, an informative session. It's, okay, what would be the one lesson you would like to share with the audience in terms of your experience with marketing? Something that they could use today and tomorrow. Let's start with you, Lucie, because you've had a lot of experience with different brands and exciting cars.
Yeah, I think, for me, it's really, I'm not sure if it's really, especially for luxury industry and in my experiences, but I feel like it's very much, marketing is very much important to be consistent and really authentic to the brand, and it's about heritage, it's about the DNA and the value, but creating also disruption. So making, I would say, unveiling. I see the brand as a a hidden gem, and need to be a little bit and unveil, I would say, this gem. So I would say it's really much about creating disruption in the consistency of the brand.
Okay, so a bit of a surprise factor as well.
Exactly.
In all of that. Yeah, you got to keep your customers surprised. Okay, sure.
I think what I've learned is that you have to be very clear what it is you want. What is your message, and what do you want to achieve, and how? And it may not lie, the answer may not lie in marketing. It may lie in outreach, it may lie in PR, but you have to have that fundamental level done first. What do we stand for? What's our message, and what do we want to happen? That's, for me, that's the message.
Okay, marketing seems to be encroaching into all of these spaces anyway, right? It's taking full use of PR and everything else to get that message across. But yeah, probably you need a more holistic approach. But core to it is knowing what you want and who you are, right? Okay, Julian, how about yourself?
My answer is a combination of what Audrey and Lucie has said, right? I think first of all, I assume when you talk about marketing, you're actually trying to sell some product, right? So what's very important is that you need to know what your product is, right? And your product doesn't have to be something physical, right? You could be selling an idea, or you could be selling a concept. But what's important is that you need to know exactly what that product is. And then you need to know where the strengths of that product is. And then, as Lucie said, you need to be authentic about, what exactly is your brand about, and what exactly is it that you're selling. And then what's important is actually what we've discovered that is actually very, very important is that you need to initially find that core group of community that really loves that product and really believes in it, and they swear by it, because there's nothing more important than having independent third parties selling your brand for you, right? I mean, you can spend a lot of dollars on social media, get a lot of attention, but if you don't even know what you're selling, and if you don't feel committed, and you don't feel passionate about what is it that you're selling, all of that marketing dollars are just going to be wasted. And that's what I found to be extremely important, especially after what we've been doing. We've been trying to push out a lot of different technologies, a lot of different products, and that is simply the one single most important thing that we really need to focus on if you want that business to grow.
Great. Thanks for that, Julian. Well, I suppose from the discussion, the takeaway for me is that marketing is really about knowing who you are, who you want to reach out to, and trying to figure out what's the best way of doing that without just throwing money at the likes of Facebook and Google, who will take it happily and feed you stuff which may not be relevant, which is the experience that I've had and heard from many of the people. So I think there's also a need for you to be confident enough in what you're doing to know that what you have, there are people or communities out there that also want to be party to it. Now, what's the best way to get through to that group of people? You probably need to do some legwork, try and find out, talk to people, get an understanding of things. And that whole networking thing needs to be important as well. Keep your networks alive and also try and see how they can benefit from you as much as you can benefit from them. It's got to be a two-way thing, right? Audrey, Julian, and Lucie, thanks so much for being in the session and the discussion today. A lot of wonderful things that came up from it, a lot of insightful discussions and topics and points were raised. I will connect all of you so that you can help each other out and start your little network and community going. Thanks so much and have a great rest of the week.